greed.
There really wasn't indeed. 0-0-13 on No played the perfect farm game. I mean, I feel really on the side of VICI. Just obviously go to the Rubik. A lot of plays from DDC that set up so much. We saw him constantly catching out Weehaw on the Timbersaw with the lead in from the telekinesis, and then Yang as well. I mean, he was the real carry here. 7-0-8 on his bristleback.
And I think more so it's a great confidence booster for FY, who kind of got dominated in game number 1, and the question was, can he bounce back from this? Black wondered whether he would be able to recover.
Absolutely, and he really did, as you said. A perfect performance there from VICI Gaming Reborn. I mean, going into game 3, what did DC need to change up here? Was this in any sense of them getting greedy with the draft? I mean, it doesn't feel like it. If anything, the greed draft was VICI Gaming, of course, with the Alchemist. What went wrong for them here in terms of hero picks?
I think just they needed their supports to do more and move around. We've seen Soxa on like a Roaming Doom, Bounty Hunter. These are sort of heroes that I think DC should eye, especially when VICI Reborn concentrates so much on the stacking and farming game.
Yeah, so if, as they said on the panel, you feel that the Dazzle pick may be a weakness here.
Yeah, I think that was it. But overall, VICI just played completely differently from game number 1.
Yeah, they really, really did. I mean, after these first 2 games, game 3, I don't know how at all that is going to pan out. We should be able to get the Paul and the analyst back on. Paul, do you read me?
We do, loud and clear. How are you doing down there?
Not bad at all. I mean,
Good.
After this kind of turnaround in game 2,
Right?
I don't know what to expect here in game 3. I mean,
Crazy.
after game 1, you expect it to be looking towards a 2-0 for DC, but VICI Gaming there.
Yeah, I'm gobsmacked. I don't know, what do you guys think? Are you with Melini and OD down there?
Honestly, that should have been the freest Timbersaw game for Weehaw. That game was like freer than the Chinese teams at Shanghai Major, but he didn't look comfortable on that hero. Yeah. Like he missed he had like really ineffectual timber chains. He like timber chains like 2 feet in front of him. He doesn't get value out of his ultimate. Like all of that stuff, it didn't look like he was doing any damage, and he should have.
Charlie Yang delivering viciousness all day long. Ben, do you agree with him?
He's far more comfortable on those in heroes, the in playmakers, the Wind Ranger, the Leshrac, the Lina, the Invoker, and the Invoker was available to them. And
It was.
Timbersaw was a good pick, but maybe not for Wii. I'm not sure how many times he's played the hero.
I mean,
3 times. Three times. 3 pro games. Yeah.
What do you know what the win rate is? Did he win the awards?
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3. Okay.
Which is, as Meatloaf says,
they were
bad.
playing American teams, though.
That is true. That was probably victories in NA qualifiers as well.
All right, well, we're going to leave you 2 alone, so you can have your back rubs and your massages or whatever you do in between games, and we'll be back with you for game 3. Thank you very much for Melini and OD Pixel, and we'll get the views now of our full panel, Black and Purge. Purge, a game of 2 contrasts, really. I mean, first game dominated by DC, second game dominated by VGR. What was the difference?
I really do think it came down to the Timbersaw. They looked at the draft and they said, Timber's a perfect pick here. It's a bristleback. But the problem is that the way that they played it, if it's just a 1v1 mid and you're against an Alchemist, you have to have a hero that's going to beat him. And you have to be comfortable beating him. Because if you don't, and you go even on all the other lanes, Alchemist is going to get insane farm, which is exactly what happened there. I think the biggest mistake that we made, all right, it was definitely he wasn't practiced on the hero. That was really clear. He didn't really know how to play it. I think the other issue with it, his skill build was awful. You can't go 1-1-4 in a 1v1 against an Alchemist. That skill is really good if a lot of creeps are hitting you and then they're attacking you. But in a 1v1, you don't need 4 points. You need like maximum 2 points. You need Whirling Death. You need to get your damage up. Once those mid-game fights,
higher levels of Timber Chain.
Yeah, like when those mid-game fights happened, he's sitting there and he like throws his ulti and does like 200 pure damage other than that, and the heroes are still alive. If he had like 4 in Timber Chain and like 2 in Spin in his ulti, he would have actually done something. But in a 1v1 there, where they're aggressively dueling, you can't expect your supports to come in and get kills for you. Like, his skill build was only good if he was like the linchpin of the strategy. If he dies, they lose the game. And that wasn't the case there. He needed to beat that guy in a 1v1, and he had 4 in reactive armor. It doesn't do anything.
Okay, to end it on a positive note, though. There was so much negativity.
Yeah, so much negativity between these two. Okay, so you're right there, Black. Do you need some help? Do we call in medical assistance for you right now, or are you okay?
I think I'm okay.
Okay,
I'll be able to make this positive.
Okay.
We saw the IO Bristol. It worked out pretty well in the off lane. They had some rotations going on. And what was really important for me was the Alchemist. He actually did lose the lane to the Timber, not as much as he should have. But he transitioned into the jungle, which Rubik stacked already, and then Rubik took over mid, while Alchemist just farmed the jungle for like 5-6 minutes, and that's how he got his greedy net worth up. I really liked what they did there. They avoided the hard matchup, and it was a good decision by VG.
What changed for them, though? I mean, apart from the draft itself, because it doesn't look like a totally different team game too.
I mean, I took credit for the DJ wake up, you know.
Right.
Maybe I woke FY up too.
Really?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, you just insult players in between games and they're back better than before.
I mean, maybe he heard my cry of agony, like, FY, get back. And he did come back.
The aggressive dual lane was...
I'm not impressed, Black.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that one.
Yeah, let's move on.
The aggressive dual lane was quite good from VGR though.
Yeah.
Like Wisp plus Bristol. At first you guys were confused about it, but it does allowed them to change up their lanes. In a lane where they're expecting to have Wisp Alchemist mid against a Timber, that would have been advantageous for DC. But when they put them in a 1v1, then Timber's still okay, but not as good, and then that allows them to pressure Lycan. Resolution didn't get the easy start like he did in game 1, so his farm wasn't quite the same, and it didn't allow him to like pick off the easy support heroes in the mid game like we expected.
I mean, we spoke about it too. The IO Bristol, if it works out, they're going to be all right. And the other formula to the victory was the Alchemist of free farming, and that happened too. And then they just won.
I got to give credits to the gyro pick as well. You saw there a lot of times where DC wants to fight, wants to go in, but there's just a gyro throwing down his ultimate there and just blocking the DC initiation. It's a great departure from the Morphling pick because Morphling couldn't do anything last game, but gyro, very aggressive early game core that allows your team to fight, to actually do something.
And the laning for it was great too, because then you have Gyrocopter plus Rubik, which is really good against Slardar. Like Rocket Barrage against Sprint, it's just tons of single target damage output, and that early team fight that they could use to prevent DC from winning those fights. It was everything they needed. In some ways, Gyro's is countered by Slardar, but when he's ahead and he gets Manta Style, then everything Slardar has is gone.
But also in the early and mid-game skirmishes and team fights in general, Alchemist Cloud plus Flag Cannon of Gyro is so strong, it like pretty much doubles his damage from the Flag Cannon. And we saw it there, the heroes just melted when Gyro was having free reign on them.
Other than the Timbersaw, DC overall were disappointing, Charlie. Why so? Do you think maybe they got a bit complacent in game 2?
Maybe a little bit, but it also had to do with their really defensive supports. Really, it was only up to, because the Timbersaw had such a bad game, it was up to Moo on the Slardar to start fights to try and do something. But it's just him going in alone. He doesn't really have any backup. He has two really defensive supports that can't go in with him.
Yeah, that's why the Bristle pick was so good, is because it turned from a lane that could have been like an off-lane hero versus 3 tri-lane into a dual lane, which has a hero that is very tanky, and they're weak on Disable, so they couldn't really kill Bristle. And Lycan is not very good contested, actually. He needs some free levels, he needs to be able to ramp up a bit, or at minimum he needs an off-lane hero that he can just do what he needs to do, which is damage. But against Bristle, that doesn't work at all. He just turns around and walks away. And you're not going to kill Bristle with a Lycan. It's just not a good matchup there. That Bristle pick really screwed up what DC wanted to do.
We've talked a little bit over the last week or so, week and a half, about the Lycan picks. And it wasn't really that figured out when we came into the main event. But then Liquid lost with it, and that was the Nyx mid pick. And now we've seen a slightly different approach to it. Do you think maybe it starts to fall out of favour again? I know these things happen. It's an ever-evolving meta, isn't it, through the tournament?
Right, I think this was a good example of something that you can do to give Lycan a hard game, to shut him down. In all the other games you've seen, he gets free farm in the lane, and goes to the jungle, runs around, gets his Necro Book 3, and just starts taking your towers. But he got contested. He got contested in a lane that wasn't easy for him. It wasn't easy for him to run around and kill all these heroes. And I think that's a great way to deal with him, is don't let him get free farm.